stuff. Well, here we are in Warsaw City Centre. I'm sitting here with Ren. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great.
Good to see you, man. So we've been catching up, obviously, before the camera started rolling, but we've just been working together for a few days. We've been out here in Warsaw doing some daytime approach, some nighttime approach, getting really into the dating stuff, talking about mindsets, talking about technique, just all aspects of this, really. So, I mean, just for the guys at home, maybe if you wanted to just introduce yourself, say a little bit about, your background, if you like, with, relationships or dating, where you are with this stuff, and just give guys a sense of Ren, the man, the mystery.
I grew up just in a beach town. I had a lot of very more so short-term type of interactions. I've done a lot of work on myself, body-wise, and fashion-wise, style-wise, and everything else. So a lot of my interactions have just been more so relying on how I look and how I present rather than who I was. And I found that I kind of, in the interactions that I've had, would lose myself and just roll along with kind of whatever comes, really no leads into anything. Some things that were flings, from a few to many over the years, and joining different like social groups and everything else just to mainly have like more of a social game going on. And so not too much pickup and not too much very like bold approaches and doing things that are, let's just say, out of the ordinary. So very much so kind of just your standard social scene, but I've always wanted more than that, and also go on that journey where I could really express myself authentically and have a deep and meaningful relationship with a woman, which is my main goal, because
What would you say, you've covered some of it already, but what would you say the key challenges maybe that you had in terms of dating were prior to us working together? Because you mentioned obviously some short-term things, but what were the sort of key things you were finding difficult, I guess?
Yeah, I would say what I was finding difficult was just expressing that masculine energy in the interactions, really being all right with being sexual, being calibrated, and really just owning that frame of being like, hey, I'm here for a purpose to, pull this relationship in a particular direction. And also, I would say I was very much so relying on the outcome of the interaction to be the judging point of how it went. Even if we had a good connection, if things didn't end the way that I wanted it to, then I would consider it a failure, rather than looking at my own progression from before and after the interaction. And really, I would say the criteria has changed since then of being like, do we actually like establish a connection? Do we move things towards the goals that I had, rather than, the other goals that other people or society had defined for me?
Yeah, absolutely. And so, obviously, we've worked together actually for a little while now in a couple of capacities, because before we met to do this training here in Warsaw, we were actually working online as well, because you're part of my my mentorship program, aren't you? And we're quite a number of weeks into that now. How would you say that has helped you in terms of this journey, sort of almost as a preparation for doing the face-to-face stuff?
Yeah, honestly, I would say it's very much so normalized things. I've seen a bunch of other content online, and it's like, oh, you have to go out, be super high energy, you have to be this, that, the other. But really, what it is just having a genuine, normal interaction with people. And, through the online content, I've just found just the starting point is actually, very reasonable. And I went out and did the missions, and was actually very surprised at the results that I got from doing it, and also the momentum that I started to gain through it. I saw interacting with people less as a mission, as like a checkbox sort of, as something that I would check off a box, and more so as a progression towards a goal. So it could even just start with opening. Okay, great. I did these like 10 or 15 opens. I really got myself out there, and I was proud of that. And it's like, once I accomplished that, I was like, okay, what's the next step? How can I push this a little bit further and a little bit further? So going through that process and getting Troy's mentorship online really helped with that. And actually, I felt very much so more confident in myself doing that. And I was very proud of myself too.
Yeah, great stuff, man. And so recently you've come over to Europe. You've been here traveling, doing it for work and for other events you had to attend. So how have you found Europe generally, and particularly, I guess, how have you found Warsaw? Because that's where we are, and I have to say, it never disappoints, does it, in terms of the quality, let's say. So any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would say, like, I've never been to a city like Warsaw, and just the talent that's out here is fantastic, and the women out here are very feminine. And the cool thing about having that Eastern European influence is that they will be direct with you, you know, exactly what they look for, what they want. And I was actually surprised that even the few girls that a few of the girls that I had gotten numbers from and everything, like, they were these, I would say, very like Model-esque type of women who, you know, you'd honestly think that, you know, just from online perceptions would be out of your league or whatever, even though we don't really believe in leagues. I don't believe in leagues. But, you know, these are the ones that seem unattainable, but really they're just humans, just like us. And going and having that interaction with them and actually seeing that, yeah, there's like reciprocation here and everything else, and all that, like, I found it to be awesome. And in fact, even I had some of them, after I approached them and talked to them, they offered to give their number and their Instagram and everything to me. They closed the deal on me. So very surprised by that, and it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's really a great place to sort of practice this stuff because, well, for the reasons you said, really. I mean, there's a lot of very attractive women here, and they're also very receptive, and it's a very friendly place as well. I think culturally it's very friendly. It's people generally pretty warm, pretty welcoming. So it's all good, really. It's just a great place to do this stuff. And then, having obviously done this for a number of days, and we got into some quite interesting situations, including yesterday was pretty cool in the evening. How do you feel like you've sort of progressed over the period of time? Would you say that there's certain things that you've learned now that you'll be able to take back with you, and so on and so forth?
Yeah, certainly. So I would say on day one, I was really feeling out the waters. Made some easily fixable mistakes, and started to get to the point where I hit my main blockers that I found. And some of those blockers would be really expressing that dominant frame, really adding in the kind of sexual undertones to the conversations. And I would say that now up towards the latter days of this experience now, I feel like I have a really solid step forward in actually having a full interaction from start to finish. I know where it should be, I know where it should go, the type of energy that's in there, and Troy provided like really, really great feedback during my interaction in order to make those tweaks real time. And I could see how just making very small adjustments, even just adding on a little bit of intention or sexuality to the ending of just some very linear things that I'd normally say, really changed the dynamic of the scenario. So moving forward, I feel actually very confident going back to my hometown and having these interactions with women who are, share a common culture, common language, and everything else. I honestly feel like I have a good game plan moving forward, and I moved past blockers that I would have had a very, very, very difficult time overcoming just going out and doing it on my own.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and I think slightly leading question, but it seems to me that there are some things, the value of face-to-face in-person training is there are some things that it's very hard, with the best will in the world, even over the internet and even over calls and so on the internet, it's very hard to really get to the root of these issues, isn't it, unless you meet up face-to-face. So I'm not devaluing online training at all, because I think that's fantastic, but in the end, sometimes for these things, it really is about the in-person interaction, isn't it, with the coach?
Yeah, actually, in working with Troy, I would try to explain just over WhatsApp the scenario that I was going through, leaving him voice messages and stuff, and he provided very good feedback, but the very small details about body language, how it's coming off and all that, that's really hard to encapsulate and communicate without it being in person. So that is when you're going through the coaching in person, that's like an invaluable asset that you have.
Good stuff, man. Yeah. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. I guess in closing, the final thing would be, if anyone's watching this and they're thinking about maybe doing some coaching, or they're thinking, is this the right route for me or not? What would you say to them?
I would say, honestly, if you're ready to go all the way, if you're ready to really take huge steps forward in your personal development, your relationship development, it's absolutely worth it. Work very hard, come out and get all of your hard points, your sticking points, get them taken care of, get them solved, and move forward with your life. And you really will embody this art into your everyday life and honestly feel a sense of ease.
Great stuff, man. Well, as I say, been an absolute pleasure, and it's not over yet because we've still got tonight. We're going to be going around in a bit and getting into some more interaction. So great stuff, man, and thanks very much for tuning in.
Thank you.